Ever stared at a sprawling Excel sheet filled with financial data and thought, there has to be a better way? Like, a way that doesn't involve endless manual entries and the constant fear of a misplaced decimal point? You're not alone. We've all been there. And if you're like most small business owners, you've probably asked the same question. Can I just magically beam this Excel data into QuickBooks? Because let's be real, Excel is fantastic for what it does. Spreadsheets, calculations, the occasional impressive pivot table. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of accounting, tracking transactions, and generating reports for your business, well, it can start to feel like trying to build a house with a Swiss Army knife. You need something more robust, something designed for the job. And that's where QuickBooks comes in. Now, before we dive into the technicalities, let's paint a picture. Imagine you're running a growing e-commerce business. You've been meticulously tracking your sales, expenses, and inventory in Excel. You've got formulas, macros, and maybe even a few custom scripts. But as your business expands, the sheer volume of data becomes overwhelming. Errors creep in. Reconciling bank statements becomes a nightmare. And generating accurate financial reports? Forget about it. That's when you realize you need a real accounting solution. QuickBooks, with its dedicated features for tracking income, expenses, invoices, and generating reports, starts to look incredibly appealing. But you're faced with a daunting task. Migrating all that valuable data from Excel. Do you manually re-enter everything? Is there a magic button somewhere? This is the question we are answering today. So, can Excel be converted to QuickBooks? The short answer is yes, but it's not as simple as clicking a convert button. There are a few methods and considerations to keep in mind. First, let's talk about the direct import method. QuickBooks has built-in import functionality for certain types of data, like customer lists, vendor lists, and product lists. If your Excel sheet is formatted correctly, you can often import this data directly into QuickBooks. The key here is formatted correctly. QuickBooks requires specific column headers and data formats. For example, if you're importing a customer list, you'll need columns for customer name, address, phone number, email, and so on, all in a very specific order. If your Excel sheet doesn't match this format, the import will fail. To make this work, you'll need to meticulously clean up your Excel data. This involves standardizing column headers. Ensure they match QuickBooks' required headers exactly. Formatting data. Make sure dates, numbers, and text are in the correct format. Removing unnecessary columns. Delete any columns that aren't needed for the import. Addressing duplicates. Identify and remove any duplicate entries. Ensuring data consistency. Make sure all entries are consistent and accurate. This process can be time-consuming, but it's crucial for a successful import. QuickBooks provides templates and guidelines for importing data, so be sure to consult their documentation. Now, what about transactional data like sales and expenses? This is where things get a bit more complicated. QuickBooks typically doesn't allow direct imports of transaction data from Excel. This is primarily due to the complexity of accounting transactions and the need for proper audit trails. However, there are a few workarounds. One option is to use third-party tools and plugins. Several software solutions specialize in converting Excel data to QuickBooks-compatible formats. These tools can automate the formatting and mapping process, making the import much easier. Another option is to use QuickBooks IIF, Intuit Interchange Format, files. IIF files are text-based files that can be used to import certain types of transactions into QuickBooks. However, creating and formatting IIF files requires a good understanding of QuickBooks data structure and can be quite technical. For example, to import a journal entry, you'd need to create an IIF file with specific columns for date, account, debit, credit, memo, and so on. Each transaction would need to be entered in a specific format, and any errors in the file would cause the import to fail. Therefore, for most people, using a third-party tool will be the best option. These tools can handle the intricacies of IIF files, or will directly input the data in the correct way. Another important consideration is the version of QuickBooks you're using. QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop have different import capabilities. QuickBooks Online, for example, often has more streamlined import features and integrations with third-party apps. When considering third-party tools, research and reviews are essential. Look at the customer ratings, the ease of use, and the specific features offered. Does the tool support the types of data you need to import? Does it offer data validation and error checking? Also, consider the security implications of using third-party tools. Make sure the tool is reputable and has strong security measures in place to protect your sensitive financial data. Beyond the technical aspects, there's the question of data integrity. Importing data from Excel can be risky if the data is not accurate or complete. Before importing anything, it's crucial to thoroughly review your Excel data and ensure it's correct. This might involve reconciling bank statements. Compare your Excel data to your bank statements to ensure accuracy. Verifying invoices. Double-check all invoices and receipts. Reviewing journal entries. Ensure all journal entries are balanced and correct. It's also a good idea to back up your QuickBooks data before importing anything. This way, if something goes wrong, you can easily restore your data. Another key point is the importance of mapping. Mapping refers to the process of matching columns in your Excel sheet to fields in QuickBooks. For example, you need to map the customer name column in Excel to the customer name field in QuickBooks. Incorrect mapping can lead to data errors and inconsistencies. When mapping data, pay close attention to the data types. For example, dates should be mapped to date fields, numbers to number fields, and text to text fields. Mixing up data types can cause errors during the import. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.